If I want to find the radian measure of 120 degrees, yes, you could look at your unit circle and bam, there's your answer. But we need another method of doing that. For instance, if the degree is not on the unit circle. So, in order to do this, I want to start it off with proportion thought. And a proportion relate to this. We're talking a comparison. Proportions are comparisons. And what we're comparing are radians and angles. So I'm going to make a comparison of radians to angles. Okay? Now, could I also do it of angles to radians? Does it matter which one's on top? No, but I'm going to make a comparison of either radians to angles or angles to radians. But to do this problem, I need to start with a basic comparison of angles to radians. So if we have radians again over angles, what comparison do we have? If we talk about our unit circle, the easiest comparison of a radian to an angle would be, the easiest one would be pi radians is the same as 180 degrees. So what I would say is, let's start with pi over 180. That is the best comparison to have. Instead of doing 2 pi over 360 or some other comparisons, we know for sure that pi is the same as 180. Now, to solve this, to find out 120, well, it's called a proportion. Where is 120 going to go? Is 120 an angle or a radian? Radian. Hopefully you can see 120 is a degree. It's an angle measurement, not a radian measurement. So I would put 120 down here with the degrees. And aren't I looking for a radian? So can I put x there? And if I could solve this, will I have my radian that is equivalent to 120? I am comparing radians to degrees. I'm starting with something I know for sure, that these compared are always the 100 pi over 180. So I am now looking for what comparison would be to 120 degrees. How do you solve this equation? Can some of you see this as cross multiply solve? Could some of you see as just multiply both sides by 120? Does it really matter which way you do this? Some of you can see it as multiply both sides by 120. Some of you see it as cross multiply. It just doesn't really matter. Let's do cross multiply. We're going to multiply that and multiply that. So I'm going to do the bottom first. I'm going to do 180x is equal to 120 pi. And then to solve this, what are you going to divide both sides by? 180. Now, do I have x? Do I know my radian? My top. There it is. Can you reduce? Well, can you cross out can you divide out those zeros? So I now have x equals 12 pi over 18. Can you reduce 12 over 18? Oh yeah. 12 over 18 reduces to, is it 2 over 3? 2 pi over 3? And if you look at your unit circle, does 120 degrees equal 2 pi over 3? Yes. Bam, we're done. So our goal is to make a proportion. We always start with pi over 180, or you can do it 180 over pi. It doesn't matter which way you write it. And then you put your degree in wherever the degree is, which is the bottom, and solve for the other one. And I would recommend, for some of you, multiply both sides by 120. It would have been quicker. If you're good at fraction solving, you don't have to do a proportion. You can multiply both sides to solve it. Now, if I want the degree and I'm given the radian, I'm going to use the same exact proportion to start. I'm going to use this fraction to start with. So I'm going to start with pi over 180 is equal to something. Now, I just got to realize, okay, is this a radian or a degree? Well, it's a radian, so it's going to be on the top. So I'm going to stick, oops, I got to change that to blue, 3 pi over 4 on top and put an x on the bottom. There you go. Can you cross multiply solve? All I did is I used the same comparison and stuck my radian on top because that's where the radians are. Where this problem, didn't we put the 120 on the bottom because that's where degrees are? You put it where it belongs and you just simply solve. Now this one's a little bit uglier for solving. When we cross multiply, I get pi x. When you cross multiply, that's a little hard for some of you. Okay, we cross multiply there. Now, could I put it over 1 there for some of you? Now, can we simplify this? Can we cancel 180 and 4? Or does 180 divide by 4 evenly? Yeah, it does. 180 divided by 4, that's 45. Might be hard to see that. It might be hard to see that. But when you cancel this out, that gives you a 45. So I now have pi x is equal to, and what's 3 times 45? 2 times 45 is 90. 3 times 45 is 135 pi. Now, how do you get x by itself? Yeah, you divide by pi. So what does x equal? And isn't that what we're looking for, the degree? And if you looked at the unit circle, isn't 3 pi over 4 the same as 135 degrees? So the goal on these problems is to write a fraction of pi over 180 and then put your other piece on the other side, cross multiply solve. Now, if you get good at these, I really would recommend, sometimes you want to do 180 over pi because it makes solving it easier. Sometimes, just look at your problems, get used to it. You can choose how you want to write it. It could be pi over 180 or 180 over pi. It's your choice, but on these, I technically would have probably put 180 over pi. Even though I didn't here, it would have made your solve easier. But that's up to you, to find the easier way of solving.